The America First Legal Foundation combating the left's radical agenda.
Fight for the American people, defend the Constitution, and save this nation for the next generation. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of The Arena with America First Legal. I'm Gene. I'm joined today by my colleagues Ian and Dan, and today's special guest, which is the one and only Senator from the Show Me State, the great Show Me State of Missouri, Senator Eric Schmitt. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Great to be with you guys.
So there's a lot going on. I think we probably should start with the most obvious and most compelling news item of the last couple of weeks, which is your fielding capabilities.
The catch.
The catch that lives in infamy that was made it to the ESPN. Was it top 5 or top 10?
Top 5.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel great. I mean, it's funny. The hardest part about that game, we've had some success at the plate and we're on a winning streak. It's we have a dynasty now, Republican.
Right.
But I don't judge fly balls for a living. The depth perception in a major league stadium with the lights and the levels, it's a little challenging. And so, when that ball was hit, I wasn't sure that I was going to get to it, but just, kind of tracked it down and laid it out and, held on to it, showed the umpire. And then my teammates were telling me, you've got blood running down your face. So anyway, I just wiped the blood off and put it on my pants and rubbed some dirt on it and kept playing. But it was cool. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, to be in that moment, there's 35,000 people there.
Yeah.
On TV. My family was there. We had our whole staff there. It was pretty cool. That's what I really wanted to do with my life.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it took me to get to the Senate to be in a major league outfield.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
I'm sure that's exactly what you thought about when you were on the campaign trail,
Right.
doing some speeches and, thinking about the Constitution and thinking about all the bills you wanted to work on and the things you wanted to do to advance the American people's safety and security and their general welfare. It was making a catch.
It was really just to get on the ball field.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Right. Yeah, no, it's, I didn't know really much about it, but it's been a great experience because you get to know the House members. I'm really the only senator that plays in the starting lineup. Joni Ernst plays too, but it's been fun. You get to build some relationships, and it kind of gets that competitive outlet. There's still, as people saw, I got still, some wheels left, so I'm going to get out there and play while I can.
That's
so
awesome.
Were you at top speed, number one, and two, were you sore the next day from that run?
Not really, but I think that was top speed. I actually, somebody on the Cardinals, I'm a big Cardinals fan, ran a, kind of the stats on it, and it was, by major league accounts, a plus play. So I'm not gonna, put that on my tombstone.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it made SportsCenter. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm just glad I didn't injure myself, I guess. I didn't pull a hammy along the way. Or I'm glad I held on to it. Can you imagine going all that way and then not actually holding on to the ball? So, yeah, it was a cool moment for sure.
Well, look, speaking of great plays, I would be remiss not to mention that you're one of your good former staff members and a good friend of mine was just recently confirmed to the circuit, Justin Smith. So talk about how that made you feel. Kind of how proud are you of Justin in this moment now that he's been the Senate has placed its trust in him to adjudicate cases and controversies.
Well, as you know, Justin is remarkable. My 4 years as Attorney General, he was my chief of staff, first assistant. He had a very unique quality of he could kind of see around corners, but was a brilliant legal mind. And we were able to take on some really tough fights with Justin there. And so when that spot opened up, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me to talk to the president about Justin, and glad it all worked out. He's going to be a phenomenal judge. And it's also kind of gratifying. I mean, you don't know this when you're in the mix. When we're suing the Biden administration on the vaccine mandates and winning at the Supreme Court, or the student loan debt forgiveness case at the Supreme Court, or Missouri versus Biden, the censorship case, or suing 60 school districts for mask mandates. We were just doing our thing because that's what we felt like we were in that moment. Speaking of the catch, like you meet your moment, and that's the stuff that you're proud of. And we had a great team. I mean, John Sauer was my Solicitor General, who's the Solicitor General for the United States. The U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District, Tom Albus, was on my team. Chris Stevens went on the district court, the 4 judges. So there's like 10 alums from that AG office now that are in either U.S. Attorney role, judge role, Jesus is working with Hermeet Dillon. He was on the team. So Missouri is outkicked its coverage. Let's just say we've got a lot of great talent. It's really cool to see them now ascend to these important positions, and I couldn't be prouder of Justin.
Well, I mean, to your point, Missouri is really kind of become one of the epicenters for the conservative legal movement, I would say, especially coming out of state AG world. And I would like to think that you played a big role in being kind of the catalyst for a lot of that in transitioning a state that used to be, at least 20 odd years ago, was a bellwether state and doing exactly what the people of Missouri actually wanted. And fighting for them and fighting for their values. And so, what do you think about the way that Missouri has transformed, at least in the legal sense? Not that the people have changed, but the way that it has become a leader now in the conservative legal movement.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, in 2016, when I won my first statewide race and Hawley came in, we kind of swept the statewide offices. Every statewide office was Democrat except for one.
Yeah.
So Missouri is pretty red now, but it's a very recent kind of transition. I mean, people have always been conservative, always skeptical of Washington, but Republicans now, that is very much, it's a Republican state. But yeah, it's one of these situations where coming in, we wanted to build a really good team. And what I learned in kind of leading that office was that what you can't really put your finger on when you're interviewing people. I remember the interview with Justin. I remember talking to John Sauer about, and I take those lessons now to the Judiciary Committee, because one of the things that I think we desperately we need brilliant people, right? We need smart legal minds. We need, it has to be a given that you're an originalist and you're a textualist. All these things that have been kind of the things that we've talked about a lot in those hearings before. But what I'm really looking for is courage.
Yes.
And that is born from my experience of taking on Biden, or during COVID when we took on a lot. I mean, when to this day, the biggest compliment I get, or the most frequent one, is in a grocery store, usually by a mom saying, "Hey, thanks for sticking up for our kids," on the masks,
right,
or on the censorship case, uncovering that even before Elon Musk bought Twitter, because there's a lot of pushback. I mean, you take a lot of slings and arrows, and in this modern world now, you need to have judges who are willing to make the right call, even when they might get the side eye at a cocktail party in Washington, D.C., right? And that's what I'm looking for. And I'm just, so the Missouri people I knew, so I was very proud to recommend them to the president, and to get a lot of those folks, in those positions now has been great.
There's a lot we can cover, but I want to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
Immigration.
Yeah.
So I've spent a good majority of my legal career working in the field. And I know it's an area where, including your time as state AG and now your time in the Senate, where you have been a leader. And so the Senate just passed funding for ICE and CBP. And part of what they funded was a specific measure to help ICE go after criminal aliens who are not able to be detained because of the practices of sanctuary jurisdictions. So would you like to share with the audience a little bit about kind of what that measure was and kind of how you see it playing out?
Sure. And again, you go back to the time and working with America First Legal, actually, back in the day, when Stephen Miller was, doing other things before he's in the role he's in now. What I saw, it was unbelievable. I actually couldn't believe in an American president or administration would just throw open the doors like they did 15, 20 million people here illegally. So we were kind of tipped the spear on the Title 42 litigation, the border wall, a lot of the things. And we kind of held it back for a while, but ultimately the president can make these kinds of decisions, sadly, and that we got what we got. So certainly was my experience, and then coming to the Senate was colored by that. And, we've been pretty resolute, and I do think we've shifted the Overton window a lot on this issue, because I don't think it's enough now to just talk about illegal immigration. We've effectively closed the border.
Yep.
We need to be deporting people who are not here legally, but also talking about legal immigration, the H-1B abuse, the OPT abuse that we've seen, and what can reforms. We've actually filed the Scam Act, expand the categories for denaturalization, right? If you come here and you defraud folks like the Somali enclave in Minneapolis, you're going to get denaturalized and you're going, back to Somalia. But this issue, I was even, I guess I shouldn't be surprised anymore. The Democrats kind of transitioned this defund the police movement to defund ICE. And they don't want federal law enforcement to do their jobs. And perhaps the most glaring example of what this really means for real people is the sanctuary city status. What does that really mean for people? Here's what it means. If a criminal illegal alien raped someone, committed a violent crime, and they've served their time and they're being released from prison, the Democrats in these jurisdictions would rather have that person enter into your community than be deported, because they won't work with ICE. The easiest deportation you're ever going to have is just local officials telling ICE, hey, this person that is a criminal who's here illegally is being released. Here's where you can pick them up. And that happens all across the country, but not in these sanctuary jurisdictions. So one of the things that I sponsored in this bill was $350 million for the first time for ICE now, to whether they want to cooperate or not, they're going to be there to deport these people when they're released from prison. Last year alone, in 2025, 18,000 criminal illegal aliens were released from prisons and sanctuary jurisdictions and just set free. And they don't just stay in Chicago, and they don't just stay in, New York or California. They come to Missouri and they come to Iowa. And this is ridiculous. And so I think this is the lowest of low-hanging fruit. And one of the things that we should just absolutely be resolute on, that we're not going to tolerate this in this country. If you believe in sovereignty, these are the kinds of things that you got to do to protect that. So it's in, and I was at the bill signing with the president last week in the Oval Office, and I think it's going to make a big difference. I mean, it's just one person, right, is prevented, saved.
Right.
I mean, because a lot of these terrible tragedies like Lake and Riley, these people weren't even, those people weren't even previously convicted of violent crimes. Right. They were here illegally and did it anyway. So this is, I think, the least we can do for the security of the American people.
Well, look, I mean, there's an analogy I like to try to paint for folks who aren't familiar with the way that the immigration enforcement system works. But do you remember back in, I want to say like it's 2000-ish, 2002, 2001, there's a Tom Cruise movie, and I love Tom Cruise. There's a Tom Cruise movie called Minority Report.
Oh, yeah.
And there's these precogs, right? And they could see everything that was going to happen. And so the Democrats, they have this worldview that animates, I think, these sanctuary policies, that somehow, some way, we just know who the really violent murderers are, and we just know exactly who they're going to be and how we're going to go after them. And there's no way that anybody who has not previously been convicted of something is ever going to commit something in the future. And so that, well, gosh, he doesn't have a criminal record. Why are you going after so-and-so? Oh, he has no conviction. Why are you not going after, how dare you deport so-and-so? How dare you enforce immigration laws against this guy, as if we know perfectly that this person is never going to commit another offense. And when you talk about just the Democrats in the old days, that it's, who's going to think of the children? Who's going to think of the children? Or if it saves one life, well, guess what? In illegal immigration, when it comes to someone who's not even supposed to be here in the first place, is it not the case that that is the most inexcusable offense that could ever be committed, is by somebody who wasn't supposed to be here in the first place, killing or harming a member of the citizenry who is here, who has every right to be here and every right to live out their life the way that they're supposed to be.
And think about how I've met these families as parents. Can you imagine that heartache and that grief, knowing what you just said, that this person should have never been here? The tragedy is sort of compounded on the fact that it's a failure. It's just a failure. It should have never happened. But to take your point even further, it's not even just that. They're saying they would rather, and I guess this desire to be kind or whatever it is that they're, this toxic or suicidal empathy, they would rather, instead of that person being deported, a criminal now, like we know the person's a criminal and they're here illegally, they would rather have that person, released and not deported. Like, that's crazy to me. Right. So I think we're at a place now where this is not your grandfather or even your father's Democrat Party. This isn't Bill Clinton giving a speech, the State of the Union, talking about how we're going to protect the border, and or even Barack Obama was actually talking about deportations. Like, they are in territory now that no sane country should ever tolerate. Like, we should actually, this should not be controversial. We say that, look, we are going to have a secure border, And forever, as you know, the immigration laws in this country where you can't come here illegally. There's a couple there, if you come here, there's a couple of exceptions. Maybe it's a legit asylum claim, but 9 out of 10 of those are bogus, right? But that's the only way you get to stay, right? Like they just said, you're released into the interior of the United States. Here's maybe a court date in 2034. That's all they did. And they knew that was never going to happen. And that was the point. So when they defunded ICE and CBP, what they were really doing is saying, we don't want any deportations in the interior of the United States, after they let, of course, 15 to 20 million people into the interior of the United States. It's bizarre. I think it cost them, and that's part of why they lost. And it's an issue, I think, that resonates with a lot of just, normal people out there. So I think that we're on the right track here. This is a loser for them, but they can't get out of their own way on it because their base won't let them.
Yeah. I could keep talking about this all day. I think Ian has a couple things he wanted to ask you about.
Yeah. So caught my attention. You posted about a situation that started off when you were Attorney General, and that has continued, that involved a whistleblower at the Department of Education, where the Department of Education under Biden was violating a court order and opening investigations based on gender identity at schools. Can you tell us in the audience a little bit about that situation?
Yeah, you're not supposed to. I mean, I think what it does highlight, and this was in Kansas City actually, where a whistleblower come forward and talked about this kind of discrimination ultimately that's sort of happening. And even when policy changes, there's still people out there who believe it's their job to undermine the law because of this ideology. And so we're really, one of the things our office is sort of taking on right now is we want to expose this fraud. I mean, I'm not in the job, I don't have the job anymore of prosecuting. That was a great job. But one thing we can do is oversight and build this relationship where whistleblowers know they can come forward. Because you think of the waste and the fraud that you said, JD Vance and what we're doing right now, and I think it's just the tip of the iceberg in Minneapolis and in California. And this is really resonating with people. I think like they intuitively know there's a lot of these things happening, but they don't understand why somebody won't do something about it. Like, where's the action? And so, we're trying to kind of fill that void and then of course work with federal law enforcement with the things that we find. But I just think, again, in our education system, it used to be, when I was in college, it'd be like an elective. You take an elective of, whatever, like some kind of far out sort of theory. And it's not, as a conservative, even then I would take some of these just to spar, whatever. But now you look at the ideology of professors across the board at universities. It's just so out of balance, and that has seeped into K through 12 education too. And a lot of people don't want to confront it because it's their local school board. But the truth of the matter is, this CRT, this DEI, all of this stuff is cultural Marxism meant to divide, and it's meant to separate by oppressor and oppressed. And if you want to understand, we're approaching America 250 here, 4th of July. And I don't take any pleasure in saying this, but you look at the polling, 90% of Republicans are very proud or very proud to be an American, compared to 29% of Democrats. And if you don't think that's a result of over a generation now of teaching our young people to despise America and to not think that this is the greatest country in the history of the world, or the things that we believe in are really unique and exceptional, I think we're fooling ourselves. And so I don't think that's a good development, but that's where we're at. And what is it going to take to change that? We have to fight back. We have to start apologizing. We have to, reinvigorate this kind of civics education that really teaches what this country's all about. If the only thing a school kid knows is that about the founders is that George Washington had a slave, we have failed. We have absolutely failed. But the sort of the Marxists that have infiltrated our education system now down to K through 12, that's exactly what they want them to know, because it undermines this country. And if they think they can remake it, that's what they want, and we can't let them do it. So we're going to keep exposing this stuff.
What gives you hope for the future of this country? I
think look at the UFC fight, look at the IndyCar race, look at the rodeo, look at the state fair that's coming. We're celebrating. Look at the left fielder in the Congressional baseball game willing to bloody up his nose. There is so much for us to celebrate in this country. And I think it's incumbent upon us to keep pushing that message. This is a great country. And we have our disputes, and we have to understand what time it is. It's like the other side, they're coming for the lunch, right? But we're winning. You look at this polling, you look at young men, you look at people are tired of being told, this kind of this COVID nanny state that existed. People rejected that. And so I think we're on the other side of it. We have to keep fighting. That's very important. But this is a great country that we should be proud of, and we should stop apologizing.
I love it. Well, thanks for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. We know you're a busy guy. You got to go vote. So we appreciate everything you do, everything you have done, especially for the conservative legal movement, for the American people. And we look forward to talking with you very soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
sir. It is time for this week's Bad Legal Take.
From viral bad arguments to headline mistakes, we're calling them out on Bad Legal Takes.
All right, so today's Bad Legal Take comes from, surprise, surprise, actually, let me clarify, this is a bad legal take and a bad factual take. This comes from the mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, who just recently said a few days ago, talking about New York, we continue to be proud of being a sanctuary city. We continue to be ready to stand up for our immigrant neighbors. ICE is a rogue agency that should be abolished. So, ICE is a rogue agency that should be abolished. That is the worst factual take and a horrible legal take, because what he is doing in that moment when he is making this, and this was in an interview that he did in the news media, is he is basically saying there should be no immigration enforcement in the United States. No one should be deported. We're going to stand with our immigrant neighbors, and nobody who violates our laws, nobody who does anything should ever be deported. And this is the situation. Congress passed immigration laws, right, for decades. Every civilization throughout history that's had the means and capability to do so has enforced their immigration laws. If you're a student of the Bible, you can go back and read examples of this concept of the king or the sovereign having control over his or her territory, and the need to seek permission to enter it, the notion of being expelled, the notion of territory belonging to different groups of people. And so you fast forward to the year 2026 and before, and you have a lot of Democrats across the country who have decided that ICE is a rogue agency, that it is irreparable, it is incapable of being redeemed in their view, and that there is nothing that can be done, and that they need to start afresh. But I am telling you, Congress passed laws, and they say if you do these things, you will be deported. You will be detained. You will be deported. So if ICE isn't going to do it, who is going to do it? And if the same situation that Mr. Mayor Mamdani is saying here, when he's saying ICE is a rogue agency, it's out of control, all these other things. Okay, so then what? Who enforces our immigration laws? Is it going to give it to HHS? You're going to ask them to do it? We're going to ask for New York to send out civil patrols to go around and ask people if they might want to leave the United States if they violate the laws. They're going to go and find the TDA guys and the MS-13 gangbangers, and they're just going to ask them politely if they feel like maybe going home. Is that what you want? Is that what Congress expects? Is that the role of the federal government when it comes to enforcing our immigration laws? And quite frankly, no. The whole notion of a sovereign government that has control of its territory is a government that is no bigger than it actually needs to be to get the job done. But one of the most basic functions it has is control over its borders, over its territory, over who gets to come in and who has to leave. And when you hear Mamdani criticize ICE, call it a rogue agency, or you see these idiots outside of Delaney Hall in New Jersey saying, we need to shut down Delaney Hall. This is a terrible place. There's all these conditions, all these bad things happening there. Okay, so what? What is your solution? What do you propose? Do you propose the FBI take over the situation? Do you propose that the marshals take over the situation? What is it that they are doing wrong, number one, and how will you fix it? And then how will you ensure that the immigration laws are effectively enforced? And if you ask those questions, they will have zero answers, because the real answer, the real thing that's behind animating all of this is they have an open borders agenda. They have an open borders ideology. They do not want our immigration laws enforced. They want your neighborhoods overrun with anybody from anywhere in the world who just wants to come to the United States and open up whatever shop or do whatever they want and just sit there and suck off the taxpayers' dime. That is what they want. This is the worldview that they want. And so when you listen to this and people don't push back in an interview with some of these folks at Delaney Hall or with the mayor of New York, and they say things like, ICE is a rogue agency, we need to abolish ICE, oh, ICE is horrible and ICE is fascist, then what in the hell do you propose? What is your answer? Your answer is that you want open borders. You do not want our immigration laws to be enforced. And so it is a bad factual take because there's no evidence of ICE being a rogue agency. It is a bad legal take because, in fact, the Constitution vests the federal government with certain responsibilities and powers when it comes to the enforcement of our immigration laws. And the whole notion that ICE just doing its job renders it into a rogue agency and an agency that is in need of reform is the most retarded thing I think I have ever heard in my entire life. And that's a legal term. Respond.
I mean, what is, I kind of liked what the president did early in the administration on, foreign invasion, domestic invasion, when you have open borders. I mean, what's the difference? What's the difference than allowing, a foreign military to invade our country than having open borders where foreigners can come to our country, have free range to commit violence, not have the risk of deportation? I don't understand the difference.
Doesn't seem to be a difference.
Yeah. I don't think I'd just like to go through this mental thought exercise, right? Which is, again, transport the founders from the 1700s to today, and you show them the world. You plop them down in New York City, and say, "Hey guys, look what's going on. Look what this marvelous experiment turned into." And here you have people protesting the federal government's authority to repel and to expel foreign citizens who came here contrary to the laws that were established. And you just you gave them that proposition that, oh, does this make sense to you? They would look at you like you were from freaking Mercury or Mars or something. Oh, what language are you speaking? This is insane. That would have been so foreign to their worldview and to the worldview that shaped and formed our Constitution in our founding as a country, that they would have thought, that really would have been the equivalent of, again, speaking a foreign language, I think, to them, because that would not have resonated at all. This whole notion that enforcing our immigration laws makes us an evil or fascist country, or that there's something wrong with us for doing that, something wrong with ICE protecting our communities, is a modern idea. It is a ridiculous idea, and it is one that's grounded in a lot of different things, but it is anti-civilizational speech. It is anti-civilizational behavior. It is a worldview that is premised on fantasy and not reality. The whole notion that anyone from around the world, we have like 7 billion people in the world now, something like that they can just come here and it's great, and that you should love having your town taken over, and that you should love your main street being taken over, and you should love money out of your paycheck being taken and given to other people to just sit there, that somehow that is the epitome of freedom. Somehow that is the epitome of life in the 21st century, and that you are such an enlightened citizen of the world, of the United States, and that is the worldview you have to hold. To me, it just strikes me as dumb. It just strikes me as being beyond dumb. Such a point that the senator, Senator Schmitt, was just talking about it. This is this is where their base is. This is the view that they have. And so any politicians who are going to hold a counter viewpoint to that don't have a future in that party. And I think it's not going to work out for them.
Well, you can go to what Senator Schmitt said, and you don't have to go to 1796 and put Alexander Hamilton in the DeLorean. You can go to 1996 and put Bill Clinton in the DeLorean and bring him here.
Yeah.
And what's he gonna say? He's gonna be like, "This is crazy. I've got a commercial right now saying we've deported over 100,000 illegals." Right? And I mean, that's how far we have gone in 30 years, where common sense politics and common sense policies are now branded as fascism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so insane.
And how did we get here? I mean, and how do we claw it back? Like, how do we get back to some sense of normalcy?
Well, I think, I heard somebody talking about this, and I've long thought this for a while. Like, social media has created an opportunity for crazy people to have a voice, right? Like in the 90s, if you're crazy, nobody's paying attention to you. They're not interviewing you. You're not on NPR. You're crazy. Right now, you've got a platform, and you can find the other crazy people that also think this, and you become a block, right? A block that the Democrats clearly are like, we want that block. We rely on that block. And whether it's immigration, whether it's transgender stuff, it doesn't matter. They're going to find the craziest things. They're going to back it. And Democrats are going to say, well, we need them to get elected, so we're going to have to, cater to that.
And they're all going to congregate on Reddit.
Yeah. And, it's also just, it's a great point about the social media, because it allows you to create fake news, in these fake taglines. So much was captivated about, the Trump administration in 45 putting kids in cages. And then look at these, childhood arrivals who are now going to college. And can you imagine that they're not going to take deferred action, that they're trying to get rid of DACA, and they're going to uproot these people's lives as if the law is something that interferes with liberty rather than preserves it. The law is the problem. And I think, once you saw these things under the Obama administration, that then became things that the Trump administration wanted to undo and got sued and got investigated, then it's no surprise to hate ICE and to think that ICE is this dangerous, unlawful thing authorized by law.
I mean, ask yourself this. You're a parent who just lost a child under any circumstance. Maybe it was it was a brutal murder. Maybe it was a person who committed DUI and hit your car and your child died. And the person who committed the act had no right to be in the United States. How likely is it that that person says ICE is a rogue agency and our immigration laws should not be enforced? I mean, it's horrible to take things to that end of the spectrum, because no one ever wants to think about that stuff. But those things happen every day. The angel moms and the angel families who have dealt with this stuff, who've dealt with this pain, people like Lake and Riley's family who have witnessed this type of suffering, they experience and they know the consequences of what open borders can do. And just the whole notion that we have to wait until someone is an axe murderer, or we have to wait until they've committed a terror attack, or we have to wait until they've raped enough people, or we have to wait until whatever before we can enforce our immigration laws is ridiculous. It's just like, it's not what any other civilization throughout all of human history has done. It's never been that way. It's always, if you don't have the king's permission, if you don't have the sovereign's permission, you get booted. You get bounced. If you're not detained, quite frankly, if you're not imprisoned in the old days and then bounced, there's this whole notion that you can just go wherever, do whatever you want with no consequences, is just not consistent with the human experience. It's not. It's so arbitrary and it's so anti-historical and anti-civilizational that I don't know how we're going to get that worldview like excised. I think people can think whatever they want. It's fine. People can hold whatever views that they want to have. But the whole notion that that's just acceptable and that's politically palatable and that the future of your country is not going to suffer as a result is something to me that's just not grounded in reality.
Well, I love how the left, will just warp truth in a way that seems palatable. Well, it's only a small percentage of crimes that are committed by illegals.
We're just forgetting the fact that they all cross the border illegally.
Why are there any crimes?
Yeah.
It's like it's crime. It's crime. And it's like, we're missing the big picture here. The big, it's a crime. Someone was hurt. Someone was harmed. Some law was violated. I guess, it's insignificant compared to the other crimes.
So
Look, again, just some of these things, if you just boil it down to basics. Think about your own house, your own household. If you've got a family member who has issues or whatever, you deal with it, right? Like you deal with it. Every family has situations that they have to go through. But if it's a guest in your house and they're causing you issues, they're causing harm to your family, they're causing harm to your household, what's the first thing that any common sense person would ever do? Kick them out of the house, right? This is just a natural human response. It's more than common sense. It's the right thing to do. You remove a threat to the household. And yet when it comes to our country, when it comes to the survival of our country and the success of our country, we're supposed to reject common sense, and we're supposed to reject the things that you would do even in your own house, to manage your own house, to protect your own family. Somehow it becomes unacceptable to do at a larger level.
Yeah, by the way, why even have door locks, right? So if you don't lock your door, if you leave your door open, if you put out a sign that says take what you want, you're going to get robbed. But somehow, and every rational American would say, no, lock your doors. Don't advertise to break into the house. Have a security system. And yet, when it comes to the country, that's all bad all of a sudden.
Right.
I love at the protests when people will walk around and people are holding signs like no person is illegal, and then the person's like, okay, well, I actually have an illegal alien, are you willing to house this illegal alien in your home? And the person's like, what are you talking about? I'm not taking in an illegal alien. But that's what we've done as a country.
Right. Yeah. And of course the taxpayer dollars under the Biden administration put them up in hotels. So look, it's a ridiculous situation. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about the issue because who comes first in a civilization? The citizenry. The citizenry always comes first. Who comes next? Guests, lawful guests who have permission to be there. And who is dead last in nowhere on the priority chain, but who, of course, deserve to be treated as human beings. But who have no right, no permission, and do not deserve equal treatment compared to citizens are the people who have no permission to be there in the first place. It's common sense. So, bad legal take, Mr. Mayor. Bad factual take. Good luck with that. Bad legal take that you have there. Really appreciate you becoming a naturalized citizen of our country and insulting us all immediately by trying to say that we should not enforce our own immigration laws. That's it for this week's episode of The Arena with America First Legal. We will see you all next time.